Alright. Hello, citizens of the Nigelverse. It's Nigel here once again, and welcome to another episode of System Shock Radio. Because it's episode 110, I figured I'd do something a little bit special, but also something else, for circumstances somewhat beyond my control. And today, on System Shock Radio, we are going to be talking about the infamous plane ride from hell. For those of you who don't know what the plane ride from hell is, for those of you who do know, I'm sure it probably sends shivers down your spine or brings up some bad /WTF memories in your mind. Even if you weren't on there, you probably at least heard of it, like, oh boy. But those of you who haven't, it's insane. It's definitely insane. So we're going to talk about it. But first, I'm going to do my predictions for Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is happening tomorrow. And unfortunately, it's going to be taking place at 3, which is exactly when I go into work. So what's going to happen is I'm going to obviously go to work and everything. And then I'm going to watch it when I get home. And then I'll have the review up, hopefully on time, on schedule. By Sunday, so we'll do that. So I'm gonna get the predictions out of the way, then we can focus, because of course the plane ride from hell is supposed to be the main focus of this episode. At least that was my intention, but unfortunately, wasn't quite able to get my predictions in at any other point. Mostly because I wanted to make sure the card didn't update any further, although there's a chance it probably could still update further, and obviously the card's subject to change and everything, and that's often how it goes. But I think this will be like the final card for tomorrow. So I'm gonna read these off in order, and the order that they're here on the wiki article isn't necessarily the order that they're going to be appearing on the card itself. Just because it's in the certain order here doesn't mean that's the order that they'll actually take place tomorrow for the event, which Money in the Bank, of course, is going to be, and the reason they're doing it so early, it's going to be in London, England, from the O2 Arena. So that's gotta be pretty interesting. Last time W went to the UK was Clash at the Castle, and that was really, really successful. So hopefully this one will be the same as well. But without further ado, let's get into it. So starting with the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. We have Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura, LA Knight, Santos Escobar, Butch, Damian Priest, and Logan Paul. So I was originally just Ricochet, Nakamura, LA Knight, Santos Escobar, Butch, and Damian Priest, because they qualified in qualifying matches. But Logan Paul just showed up and announced he was going to be in the match. Kind of similar to what they did last year, where Austin Theory was announced, but for starters, Austin Theory was announced right before the match began, as everybody was waiting in the ring. But also, it was Adam Pearce who announced Austin Theory. But Logan Paul just showed up, said he's gonna be in the Money in the Bank ladder match, so now he's in. Cool. Like, hey, nothing wrong with Logan Paul and everything, but him just showing up and just being in the match, sure, why not? It's been done before. It was done last year. It was done with Brock Lesnar. And speaking of which, apparently Logan Paul might actually win the whole thing. And apparently Triple H is pushing back against Logan Paul winning it. Right now it's between Logan Paul and LA Knight. LA Knight is literally who everybody wants to win, and he's definitely the favorite. He's over her like crazy. He was even over. He was getting like a massive pop on SmackDown. I didn't actually watch SmackDown because I was busy preparing for the episode and everything for this episode. But he was crazy over her. Yet apparently WWE don't want to pull the trigger on him. Like WWE, talk to me, talk to us. Why do you always go out of your way to not give us what we want? on. Like, you already did it at WrestleMania. Just, just let us have this, please. Can we please just have this? Because he doesn't even have to cash in on Roman Reigns. He probably doesn't even have to cash in on Roman Reigns and right away. He can probably wait until somebody takes the title off of Roman and then swoop in. But please, can we just go ahead and do LA Knight? And apparently, it has caused some internal discussion because LA Knight and Logan Paul are, I guess, like the two main favorites to win it. Now, Logan Paul winning a championship in WWE, it wouldn't surprise me, but he's nowhere near ready yet. He's still relatively new, so popping a title on him, and we don't have the 24/7 championship anymore. It's kind of like a safety net. But yeah, so as for who's going to win this, like I said, it's between LA Knight and Logan Paul. LA Knight's who everybody wants to win. I think that's who Triple H mainly wants to win, and he's the most over. He seems the most likely to win out of all these guys. But just keep in mind, Logan Paul might walk out with the briefcase. It do a lot for his stock in WWE and as a celebrity and everything, but he really doesn't need it. And also, I have my sweat rag here because I'm gonna sweat a lot. I turned my fan back on, but it was interfering with the mic, so yeah, I'm gonna sweat like crazy. So you've seen it's warm and everything, but nevertheless, so I think it's gonna be between LA Knight and Logan Paul as to who actually wins in this, and I guess Triple H has been going out to bat for LA Knight, including stopping LA Knight from almost getting fired apparently last year. Or apparently there was a situation, I didn't fully read into it, but there was a situation where LA Knight almost got himself fired. Could you imagine? And that was probably like a phew moment, I imagine. But yeah, so it's between those two for the men's, and then for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, it's going to be Zelina Vega versus Becky Lynch versus Zoe Stark versus Bayley versus Io Sky versus Trish Stratus. Right off the bat, had two pretty cool feels from the Money in the Bank ladder match. For the men, none of these men have won Money in the Bank before. For the women, only one has won Money in the Bank before, and that being Bayley. But the rest haven't. So this could be an interesting opportunity. The favorite I think to win is Io Sky, mostly because a lot of people like Io Sky, but also I feel like it could help further the story, kind of further the divide between her and Bayley. Whether they pull the trigger on it or not, or wait until Dakota Kai is healthy and everything again, so that they can do the whole damage control breakup angle. We'll have to wait and see, but yeah, I think Io Sky is probably the favorite to win here. Then next up is Cody Rhodes versus Dominic Mysterio. Oh, yeah. And the crazy thing is, I think Dominic might win this match, only because I think Brock is probably going to cost Cody the match to set up for the rematch that's going to be happening at SummerSlam. It's pretty much like confirmed that that's the plan, is for Cody and Brock to finish the trilogy at SummerSlam. WWE, this is not the story we meant for Cody to finish. Yeah, Cody, you might want to put your pen down. You ain't finishing that story. But nevertheless, I think this one might go to Dominic. Just Brock costing Cody, or have Brock attack Cody afterwards, and have Cody get the win. But either way, it's nice that Dominic is kind of getting the rub from Cody, who's like this major star and everything, and like I think like aside from like Seth Rollins, like the top face on Raw. So for Dominic to get this kind of like rub and everything from Cody, he pretty cool. Whether we'll see Brandy Rhodes get involved, or even Pharaoh, Cody Rhodes' dog, or I believe that's the name of Cody Rhodes' dog. I'm just gonna look it up real quick. Who is on Raw? Dogs are always cute. Yep, Pharaoh. Whether or not they play into the match, we'll have to see. But yeah, so I think it could go either way, but I'm leaning more towards Dominic. Then next up is another member of the Judgment Day. He has Seth Rollins will be defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Finn Balor. So I guess according to the wiki here, they're no longer calling it the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, now just the World Heavyweight Championship. Cool, I guess. And it's not high. I think this is the first time since I forget when, but I think this is the first time in a while that all that all the male members of the Judgment Day are on the card and actually competing on the card. Now, if Rhea Ripley was defending the women's championship, why is she not defending the women's championship? But if she was defending the women's championship, then you'd have all the members of Judgment Day competing, but not the case. But nevertheless, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, they kind of been going at it. Finn Balor repeatedly attacking Seth Rollins. And this one, I think, might go to Rollins. I don't think they're going to take the title off of him just yet, although Finn Balor as champion would be really cool. And I kind of have a theory. He kind of fancy booking, but we may or may not cross that bridge when we come to it. But concerning Finn Balor and the Judgment Day. But nevertheless, we have the Bloodline Civil War tag team match as Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa will be battling the Usos. Yep, the Usos are no longer a part of the Bloodline. They turned on Roman Reigns. Jimmy turned on Roman first at Night of Champions. If you haven't already, go check out that review. And Jay then turned on Roman shortly afterwards. So now the Usos exiled from the Island of Relevancy. So going to be battling the Tribal Chief and the Enforcer Solo Sikoa. This one, honestly, this one could go either way. But I do want the Usos to win in here. And not only the Usos to win, but I want Roman to take the pin. Now, it's going to sound crazy, and I don't know if Roman will actually take the pin. While it is kind of wishful thinking on my part, admittedly, I don't think Roman's going to take his first pinfall or submission loss until he actually loses the championship. They've kind of skirted around it for a bit, either having Solo or Sami Zayn when they teamed up, of having them eat the pin instead of Roman. But I think Roman, if the goal is for Roman to lose, have Roman take the pin, and whoever gets the pin on Roman is pretty much the one that they're probably going to have fight for the Universal Championship, which is likely going to be Jay, a kind of coming full circle moment. And the reason for that is to show a kink in the armor, show that Roman is slipping because he no longer has his family behind him, so he slips up, and then one of the Usos beats him, showing that Roman, he might not have lost the championship, but he can be beaten. And the Usos wanting Solo, I guess, to break away from Roman as well. Whether or not he'll actually do it, we'll find out. But so there is that. But like I say, it could go either way. Hey, I'm leaning more towards the Usos though. Then next up is a tag team match for the Women's Tag Team Championships, the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships, which were recently unified on SmackDown. So with the NXT Women's Championship, so now it's just one set of championships. But the champions, which right now are Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, can also travel to NXT to defend the championships, which something they kind of did anyway, a rule they kind of established anyway when Sasha Banks and Bayley were champions, if I'm not mistaken, or when someone was a set of champions. But nevertheless, Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler will be defending against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Liv Morgan recently had returned from injury, so now they're going to be battling for the Women's Tag Team Championships. But I think they're going to keep them on Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler for now. Apparently Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler want to build up the Women's Tag Team Championships, and the Women's Tag Team Division, which wishful thinking, but I'm sorry guys, it might be a lost cause. Sadly, the Women's Tag Team Championships have been booked not great, which is unfortunate. It's unfortunate that that's the case, but not great booking for the Women's Tag Team Championships on the main roster or on NXT. When the Women's Tag Team Championships were first announced, people were excited. there was a this was back when there was a lot more women on the roster, so people were excited and how they could be booked. Women's tag team championships have been booked well in other promotions. I believe they have women's tag team championships in places like Joshi, in like Joshi wrestling and things of that nature. But yeah, or on Stardom as well. If I'm not mistaken. But yeah, the tag team championships just haven't been booked that well. And I think there were even women's tag team championships in WWE before, but yeah, sadly haven't been booked the best. But hopefully Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler can stay true to that and really build up the division once again. And then finally, for the Intercontinental Championship, Gunther will be defending against Matt Riddle. I know Matt Riddle's not going to win this one, but I am interested to see how this match turns out. Matt Riddle, of course, been having his problems with Imperium as of late, and so it's culminated here with Gunther battling Matt Riddle. I'm sure this is going to be a good match. Like, Matt Riddle both these guys really are capable of putting on a good match, but I feel like Matt Riddle, a lot of people forget because of his like gimmick, how he's very laid back and everything. People, the original Bro and stuff like that. And people forget just how talented he is in the ring, and hopefully Matt Riddle gets to show that now that he's back and everything from his hiatus, his slash suspension, what have you. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting match. Gunther not dropping the title anytime soon. I imagine he's going to be the one to break the Honky Tonk Man's record, which makes sense, and the fact that the Honky Tonk Man's record has stayed for this long is incredible. Which, speaking of which, Roman Reigns just previously surpassed Pedro Morales' record when it comes to the World Championship. But yeah, so Gunther, I don't think dropping the title anytime soon, but that is my predictions for Money in the Bank. And like I said, I'm excited and I'm interested in how the show plays out, and I already know it's going to be a good one. Like, shaping up for the card, just by this card alone, I can tell it's going to be an interesting card, or especially leading into SummerSlam, so we'll see how things unfold. But that's just the first half of things. Now we move on to what I'm sure you all have been waiting for, the plane ride from hell. Oh man, what an interesting story. And I also got the chance to watch the episode of Dark Side of the Ring of talking about the plane ride from hell, and it was definitely an interesting watch, getting to see like the perspective and everything from the people who were on board, or talking about what happened and how things unfolded. One of them kind of got in trouble, and we'll see that, but yeah, it was interesting to see their perspectives and Dark Side of the Ring is something I gotta be watching anyway. They cover some really cool, interesting stuff on Dark Side of the Ring, and obviously a lot of it very dark, very gritty, but very interesting stuff on Dark Side of the Ring. And so now I guess this is the incentive to check it out even more. But first we have to ask who all was on the plane. Now, I don't think this is the full list of everyone on the plane. There might have been more people, but this is some of the notable people who were on the plane, at least I can find. We have Kurt Hennig, a.k.a. Mr. Perfect, Brock Lesnar, Finley, Triple H, Paul Heyman, Dustin Rhodes, a.k.a. Goldust, Terry Runnels, Jim Ross, Michael Hayes, Bradshaw, a.k.a. JBL, Sean Waltman, a.k.a. X-Pac, Scott Hall, a.k.a. Razor Ramon, Ric Flair, a.k.a. Ric Flair, no, I'm just kidding, Ric Flair, Justin Credible, a.k.a. PJ Polacco, Rob Van Dam, Tommy Dreamer, Vince and Linda McMahon, and Mike Chioda. Now, a lot of these aren't really getting involved in a lot of the incidents themselves, but we're kind of just like witnesses and bystanders. But I figured I'd include them anyway because they were on the plane, and some of these people we did get to hear their perspective. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was Chris Jericho narrating. If I'm not mistaken. So I think this was after Jericho had left for AEW and everything. But nevertheless, let's get into it. So first of all, what happened? What got us to this point where this chaos and insanity unfolded? on the plane ride from hell, and strap in because it's gonna get pretty wild. So, on May 5th of 2002, several WWE superstars and management were flying from the UK back to America following a European tour culminating in the Insurrection pay-per-view. And this was a 7-hour flight, and it had a 7-hour delay. Hey, apparently. And on this flight, there were a number of incidents, mainly due to several of the passengers on board being intoxicated. It partially as a result of the flight being delayed, like I mentioned. And so they were talking about how while it was delayed, they had the bar, they had the open bar and everything, and the wrestlers eventually started serving themselves. And then this is literally when all hell broke loose, and very fitting for the name, the plane ride from hell, because it's about to get crazy. So now we get into the incidents, and there was a lot of incidents going on this flight. Starting off, Kurt Hennig, aka Mr. Perfect, challenged Brock Lesnar to a fight after ribbing/pranking Lesnar over who was the better amateur wrestler. They fought, and eventually they fought in the aisle, with Brock Lesnar taking down Hennig and Hennig failing to fight back, with them even hitting the emergency door. And Finlay, Triple H, and Paul Heyman had to intervene to separate the two. And in addition, Brock Lesnar also allegedly exposed himself to Terry Reynolds. Well, now, obviously, what happened to Terry Reynolds and everything was, bad and everything. Terry Reynolds described that. But also, why would you want to pick a fight with Brock Lesnar of all people? Now, well, I'm usually someone who doesn't like to fight, doesn't try to fight. Obviously, I fight if I have to, if I have no other choice, no other way out of it. But why would you want to pick a fight with Brock Lesnar of all people? Brock Lesnar. You guys know Brock Lesnar, how Brock Lesnar is built. Why would you go pick a fight with him of all people? Like, obviously you shouldn't be fighting on the plane, and that's, I think, the main takeaway, but why Brock Lesnar of all people? But wait, it gets better. And then a drunk Dustin Rhodes allegedly serenaded his ex-wife Terry Reynolds over the PA system until being told to stop by Jim Ross, who at the time was the vice president of talent relations, aka the position that was formerly held by John Laurinaitis. I forget who now is the vice president of talent relations, and in fact, I'm going to look that up. So Jim Ross was the vice president of talent relations at the time. I mean, so he essentially was in charge of the guys and everything, and even was able to do hiring and firing, as we'll see. But pretty much oftentimes to charge these guys, answer to Vince McMahon, things of that nature, Then Michael Hayes, who was a road agent and former wrestler, also known as Michael P.S. Hayes of the Fabulous Freebirds, or Doc Hendricks, when he was managing the Hardy Boys and everything, and I believe he even did commentary at one point, drunkenly punched Bradshaw, which led to Sean Waltman, aka X-Pac, cutting off Hayes' ponytail while Hayes was asleep, with the consensus being that Hayes deserved it for what he did. And they mentioned in the documentary how it seemed kind of like out of character for X-Pac to be able to do something like that, but getting revenge for Bradshaw and everything, I guess. But wait, there's more. So, and this was like the big one. This is like the major one, among other things, but this is the major one. So, Ric Flair allegedly sexually harassed the female flight attendants by flashing himself to them with his robe, and grabbing two of the women and two of the flight attendants, who we'll get to, grabbing their hands and placing them on his crotch. So, if you don't know what flashing is, it's when you take off like a robe or trench coat or something and reveal everything, pretty much. Yeah. Him doing that on the flight. Hey, and this is where Tommy Dreamer got in trouble, because Tommy Dreamer kind of defended Ric Flair and his actions here. Tommy Dreamer, and that is in the documentary, with Tommy Dreamer stating that that's what Ric Flair often did, and that's what all the boys wanted to see. And even Jim Ross kind of corroborated that, saying that's what all the boys wanted to see. That's what that was like. Hey, it's something Ric Flair did often, and it's like flashing and everything, and Tommy Dreamer's, but then the sexual assault, like him taking the hands and putting them on the crotch and everything, and even barring one of them from escaping. Tommy Dreamer said he didn't think Ric Flair was capable of it, and he got in a lot of trouble for that. And when the episode aired, and it even led to him being suspended for a time from Impact Wrestling, and kind of being in the doghouse with a lot of people for a while. Now, it's kind of worn off because this episode was a while ago, but yeah. So now we have a quote here from Jim Ross, and this is one of the things he posted via his now defunct Ross report on WWE.com. And the quote reads, "The flight was about 7 hours in length and at times was low-lighted by a handful of people who consumed too much alcohol and consequently acted like children whose parents were away and left the liquor cabinet unlocked. The conduct of this inebriated minority was unacceptable and will not be tolerated. Procedures have been put in place to ensure such conduct does not occur in the future. The bottom line is this: yours truly is the person in charge of the talent roster, and the buck stops with me. We will do all he humanly can to solve the problem." And I imagine that was just pretty much WWE trying to address it prematurely before someone else did, kind of like beating people to the punch before someone else addressed him and addressed what happened. But yeah, so that's what Jim Ross reported on, and then Jim Ross, in the same report, went on to state that Scott Hall, who was asleep on the flight, and man, if he was asleep that whole flight, then man, he was a heavy sleeper. Scott Hall, who was asleep on the flight, was not involved in any of the incidents, and he did, however, have to be wheeled through customs by Just Incredible, aka PJ Polacco, as he would not wake up. So they tried to wake him up. He wouldn't get up. So they wheeled him through the airport, wheeled him through customs, was able to get through and everything. And apparently, and this is one of the flight attendants who they had in the documentary, Heidi Doyle. Well, Scott Hall allegedly had grabbed at her and tried to SA her, which oh boy, that's obviously bad. But then went back to sleep. But he was released afterwards as well. So kind of spoiling the aftermath. But now let's get into the aftermath, because he wasn't the only one. So after this incident, Kurt Hennig was released from WWE shortly following the incident, while Lesnar faced no repercussions as Hennig was recognized as the aggressor, and that's obviously in regards to the fight that they had between those two. Then Dustin Rhodes was eventually publicly released by WWE in 2003, with WWE stating that his contract would not be renewed when it expired in January of 2004. And then I already mentioned this, but I'll bring it up again. And Scott Hall, who was reportedly not in the best condition during the tour, was released several days later. At least that's what one article said. And apparently, according to the documentary, Jim Ross said it was like several hours later, so within the day. But yeah. And then two of the flight attendants, Tara Lynn Capilano and Heidi Doyle. If I mispronounce either of those names, I apologize. And like I said, Heidi Doyle who was in the documentary. They would sue WWE in 2004 for Flair's actions, although Flair would deny the accusations, and WWE would eventually settle out of court with the two women. And they asked Jim Ross in the documentary why Ric Flair didn't face repercussions when everyone else did, and Jim Ross stated that Flair was they kind of let it go because Flair was like one of their top stars at the time, and I think that was during the angle how this was taking place. I believe that was during the angle where Ric Flair had just come back to TV, and he and Vince McMahon were like co-partners and co-owners of WWE. Things like that. And so I imagine wanting to keep that under wraps to keep Ric Flair on TV, but it does kind of suck. But sadly, it's not the first time that's happened in WWE. But yeah, so that is the plane ride from hell, and definitely living up to its name, because that is absolute insanity. I couldn't imagine being on a flight like that. So those of you who don't know, I actually did fly for the first time back in 2021, from Virginia, Buffalo to Virginia, to visit family, and then obviously back and everything. And I went on 4 flights in total to Virginia. We had a layover in Detroit. So 2 flights to Virginia, or I should say 2 flights in order to get to Virginia. One from Buffalo to Detroit, one from Detroit to Virginia, and then pretty much same on the way back, Virginia to Detroit, and then Detroit to Buffalo. Oh, but I couldn't imagine being on a plane like that with that many incidents going on. And Jim Ross even brought that up. Like, it was a normal flight, not like a private chartered flight, but it was a normal flight, like Delta or American Airlines or something like that. It probably would have been a whole different ball game. I mean, apparently, like, the plane was trashed and everything after everything that happened. But yeah, just absolute insanity, insane stuff to think about and to talk about. Oh, but that is the plane ride from hell, and that is gonna do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor: like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, turn post notifications so you know every time I upload a video, so you can see as soon as it drops. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the plane ride from hell. What are your thoughts on that whole situation, and also what's your predictions for Money in the Bank? But thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.